Here's a question for you. How do you find out what you actually need to study? Right? Because teachers have very different ideas on how to teach the same subject, right? Teacher A, let's say we're talking about photosynthesis. Teacher A could teach you this much about photosynthesis, which is, the right amount. But teacher B, oh, now he majored in biology in university and he's going to teach you that much, but he also knows all these extra facts about photosynthesis, enzyme names, researcher names, all these wonderful extra facts that he's going to include in his exam. Now, teacher C, who is an idiot, right? He's going to teach you everything except what you actually need to learn. And it's sad to say that these teachers exist. So, it begs the question, how do you find out what you actually need to study? How do you cut out the unnecessary parts of your lesson and only focus on what's important? Well, the answer is quite simple. The IB subject guide. Now, literally, the IB subject guide is a list of everything you need to know. It literally tells you what you need to study. It tells you how much of a certain topic you need to study. It tells you the goal of studying a topic, and from that topic, what you can expect on your exam. Now, I brought up some examples of actual subject guides, and I just want you to notice, this is the subject guide for Math AA, right? It tells you within the topic of logarithms, you need to know these laws, and these are some examples of things you need to know. Within history and the Ottoman Empire, you need to know these things. These are things you need to focus on. Within the topic of market failure and economics, you need to learn these aspects, including this depth, which is covered in a legend in the guide, and also your diagram should be able to show these and illustrate these points. And in terms of HL, this is what you should know. So I want you guys to understand, and actually I want you to notice this. Look at how specific it goes. It literally tells you what you need to learn, and not only that, it tells you the depth. It tells you how much of something you need to learn. So you can kind of see how useful the subject guide really is. Now, a quick disclaimer, the subject guide for subjects like TOK or the languages or the arts are a lot less specific than this. A lot less specific than subject guides of bio, economics, history, physics. But you still, even for those subjects, you get so much by going through the subject guide that it's still amazingly beneficial for you. The subject guide, even in those contexts, in fact, in all contexts, acts as a pointer. I'm going to talk a bit more about that. Right. So I think now is a good time to illustrate the difference between a subject versus an IB subject. So let's say we get a question for an exam. Explain photosynthesis. Now, this is for 10 marks. Now, let's say we have this Harvard bio major. This guy knows everything about photosynthesis. When you talk about photosynthesis, this guy knows everything. He can walk up to a club and be like, hey, bouncer, I know my photosynthesis, and the guy's going to let him in, right? I'm telling you, this guy knows photosynthesis. Now, in his answer, 10 marks, he got this. He explains everything he knows. He starts, putting in diagrams, names, illustrations, enzyme names, things that even your teacher didn't know. He knows so much, and he puts that all into this long answer over here. And the IB bio student writes 2 short paragraphs on photosynthesis, and that's it. It may surprise you, and this is really true, that the Harvard bio major might only actually get 7 out of 10 points, while the IB bio student might get full points. It seems shocking, but it's actually true. And the reason is, the Harvard bio major did not necessarily include the specific things that the IB wants. The IB bio student, even though he put a shorter answer, he may have mentioned, for example, a specific enzyme that he wanted to talk about, a specific diagram, a specific example, specific things that were outlined in the syllabus, and he also looked through past papers that he knew he had to put in his answer to get full points. And the reason I can say this is because I was like the Harvard bio major. Now, I didn't actually go to Harvard, okay, but I used to, when you study from your textbook, right? There's so much information, and you put that in your head, and then you put that in the exam on your answer sheet. But I used to not get full marks like that. In fact, it was really funny. I had a friend who would write shorter answers than me and he'd get full marks. And it just wouldn't make sense to me. Like, I'm putting in all these detail, but I'm not getting full marks. And the point is that actually the IB has a very specific way it wants you to answer and very specific things it wants you to mention. And unless you're familiar with these things, even though you have a really good grasp of that subject, it's very hard to get the points you need. So the IB is really, really specific. This is what I mean when I say that the IB subject guide is a pointer. It literally points you to the specific things the IB wants you to know. This bulk over here, right, if we take Cold War, and this is all the information humans have on the Cold War. Maybe this big blob over here represents the main bulk of content you need to learn on the Cold War that will be very similar to general high school level program like AP, SAT, A-level, right? Like most programs will cover this aspects of the Cold War. But the subject guide will also act as a pointer and tell you, all right, in addition to this, you also need to learn this aspect, this aspect, this aspect, this aspect. So it points you to what you need to know. So without this, if you just relied on your teacher and your teacher didn't know this, you'd only be learning this. But because you know the subject guide, you know, all right, in addition to this, I need to learn this, 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 and these things might come on our exam. Another really useful aspect of the subject guide, and if you know your guide inside out, is you can kind of check how good your teacher and your textbook is. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, your teacher, you can kind of judge what is he teaching versus what the IB actually wants. I did this and I found out that some of my teachers were actually teaching me things that were totally not in the syllabus and like some stuff that were just not in the syllabus ever. And some of them were teaching me stuff from the old syllabus. So then I realized like, okay, this guy is kind of in his own world, I can't rely on him too much. And it also showed me that my textbook had a ton of supplementary information that I didn't need to know. This was especially true in biology, where I had a textbook that just had so much information, it was just overwhelming. And then I looked at the subject guide, I'm like, hey, this is all not really that necessary. In fact, I only need to learn this, this, this at this level. And it kind of just saves so much time and energy, and you don't have to use that time and energy for studying more. You can use it for anything. Go out with your friends, watch Netflix, do anything. But why study something that's not necessary, right? Especially in a really, really energy intense and time intensive program like the IB. The point is, you need to get it. You need to get the guide for your subject, right? Without the guide, it's very easy to waste time and waste energy on things that just don't matter. And you could also end up studying things that do matter and might come up on your exam. All right, get the subject guide. Every IB student should know about the subject guide. If you like this video, please follow me on Instagram. You can subscribe, I would appreciate that. But also follow me on Instagram at IBLIKECOLE. All right, have a good day. Try to have fun in the IB.